focus on what are the positive things that can come from a negative situation, well, then that alone is going to help your mindset. All right, friends, welcome back to Market Shares. I'm your host, Tony Blodgett, and today I want to talk a little bit about mindset and just our mental space, how we're doing mentally. You know, we've talked a lot on this podcast about the challenges that are going on in the market, and we've talked a lot about solutions to those challenges. But a few weeks ago, I spoke specifically about leadership, and one of the areas I spoke about in that discussion, in that podcast, was about leadership over yourself. And one of those areas that you can have more leadership over yourself is in the area of mindset. You know, we truly are in control of our mindset. And I don't know that everyone believes that to be the case. And so what I want to walk through with you today is just a few of the ways in which I personally have dealt with mindset. You know, this market definitely has challenges, but I gotta be honest with you, I'm super excited about this market because there's also silver lining. There's opportunity in markets like this. And depending on where you're at in this industry, assuming you're in mortgage and real estate, there's different ways in which you could find the silver lining of the challenges that this market is presenting. I mean, the challenges are obvious, right? High interest rates, low inventory, etc. But there's also opportunity. There's less competition. There's more opportunity to provide value, and people are more willing to listen to ideas that you might want to share with them. You can develop new relationships in a market like this, and those will bear fruit in months and years to come. So if you take the time and you focus on what are the positive things that can come from a negative situation, well, then that alone is going to help your mindset. But a few other things that I wanted to touch on. You know, first of all, there's a reason why the good times are called the good times, right? And we all remember the good times. They weren't that long ago in the mortgage and real estate industry. They were 2020 and 2021 and the first part of 2022. Those were good times. And they weren't the only good times, but they're the most recent good times. And they were, quite frankly, probably the best times that I've seen in my 26-year career here in this industry. And it had its own challenges, right? We were going through COVID. We were going through lots of other things, but mortgage transactions were literally falling from the sky into our lap. And that was great if you worked in mortgage and real estate. But the reason they're called the good times is because they're good. They're not average times. They're not normal times. They're not the status quo. They're the good times. And you can't expect to have the good times all the time, or they wouldn't be the good times, would they? And so I think that fact alone is worth reminding ourselves about because I think a lot of people are still stuck in this idea that I'm not doing as well today as I was doing a couple years ago. And you're comparing yourself in a very bad time, right? A difficult time to one of the best times. And so the contrast between being in one of the worst mortgage and real estate markets that we've had in a very long time, contrast that with the best times that we've ever had. And it's easy to trick yourself into thinking that you're not being as successful as you should. So that would be the first thing that I would point out is maybe you're not grading yourself on the right scale. And we all need to remember that those were unprecedented times, and these are extremely difficult times. And in between most of these markets, there's normal, there's average, there is the status quo. We just went from the best to the worst very quickly. That's part of what makes it one of the worst markets, is how quickly things shifted. And so that would be one thing that I would remind you to think about. The other thing that I would remind you to think about is that, don't be so hard on yourself, right? Because your results are not always an indicator of the efforts that you've put in. I like to always, I guess, grade someone's performance on their effort. In our industry, because we're commission-based, we tend to look at how many transactions did we fund, because that's how we get a paycheck in this industry. But you know what? What I would ask you to look at is, are you putting in the effort necessary? Now, if you're putting in all of the effort and you're not getting any results, well, then there might be, some reason to look at how it is you're going about that effort, and are you doing the right things? But simply looking at the results and then condemning yourself for what those results are is not going to be helpful to anyone's mindset. I would ask you to focus more on the activities that you're doing, and are you doing everything every day that you can to be successful? Here's the other thing that I would encourage people to do. It's very easy in times like this to commiserate with other people. And that's because a lot of people don't have a good mindset around a market like this, and they like to blame the market for how they're feeling. And it always feels better to have that reaffirmed by somebody else. And so you hear a lot of people talk about, hey, how's things going? Like, oh man, it's difficult. It's a really challenging market or whatnot, right? And then if you spend time with people who are constantly commiserating about what's going on, it's very difficult for you to have a positive mindset. So don't spend your time with Debbie Downers, and also don't be one. Find another way of framing what's going on in the market in a more positive light, right? So when someone asks you, how's things going? Say, you know what, to be honest with you, they're going really good. I mean, we're dealing with the challenges that this market is presenting us, but it's also opened up some great opportunities. And as a result, I've met some fantastic people, and I'm excited about what the future is going to look like. That's the kind of response that people want to hear. And there's others out there that will be magnetic to that type of energy. So be the lighthouse, right? Be the person who emanates that positivity, and try to limit your time with people that just seem to focus on the negative things about what's going on in this market. So don't kid yourself that other people's mindset won't bleed over to you, even if you do some of the things we're going to talk about here. So don't hang out with Debbie Downers. So what I want to talk about here is a couple things specifically that I think can help with your mindset. And many of these things are things that I do or have done at periods of my life where I needed to change my mental state. And again, just remember, you do have control over this. It's not easy, but there's some things that you can do, I believe, to make it easier to have the right mindset. And so one of them is probably something you've heard a number of times, but it's a good reminder and something that you should seriously consider if you're depressed, if you're down about what's going on with this market. I would consider doing daily affirmations. Now, this can seem kind of cheesy. Like, I've been to seminars and events where the person that's teaching it's like, you need to wake up every morning and you need to, stand up and look in the mirror and say these 10 things out loud, or whatever the case may be, right? I mean, and maybe you do want to do that. I mean, I'm sure that that's a best practice. But in my mind, just reading through some affirmations that are going to help set your mindset the way that you want it before your day starts can be super impactful. So, a couple things that you might think about, I mean, you can be super cheesy with your affirmations, or you can do things that truly resonate with you. And I would challenge you to find some affirmations. Maybe it's only 5 things, maybe it's 10 things, but something that you feel good about saying to yourself or reading that actually means something to you, right? So, like, I've been through difficult environments before, and I came out from the other side doing well, right? That's a good reminder to yourself that you've been through difficult things in your life and you came out just fine. Today, I will do my very best, right? It's a simple thing that reminds you in the morning that you have a commitment to yourself to do the very best you can do on that day. My business ideas are good ideas, and they should be shared with others, right? Just, do you think that your strategies that you deploy for your clients, for your realtor partners, do you think they're good ideas? Well, remind yourself in the morning that these are good ideas, and you're doing people a disservice by not sharing that information with others, right? So it's things like that you can go, okay, I believe that, I feel that, I know that that's true, but I might need to remind myself every day about it. And that's how I would use daily affirmations. The second thing I'm going to mention is not for everybody, but something to consider, and that's meditation. If you're someone that meditates all the time, you probably swear by what it does for your life. If you're someone who says, look, I've tried meditating, it's super corny, it doesn't work for me, hey, fair enough. It's just an idea. And I don't meditate every day, I'll be honest with you, but there are times in my life where I did. And one thing that really helped me was a specific meditation. I hired a coach for a while. His name's Jesse Elder. And if you go on to I found it on Apple Podcasts, but I'm sure any podcast platform, you can find it. But look up the Prime Light 4-phase meditation by Jesse Elder. And this is actually a guided meditation, so you can just listen to him the first time through. But what I really liked about it was a different approach to meditation, at least for me it was. And he kind of takes a 20-minute meditation and breaks it into 4 5-minute segments. And he'll walk you through exactly what you do. But essentially, the first 5 minutes, you do nothing, right? You just lay there still. You just don't move. And you let your brain kind of calm down, and you really get into the mindset to be able to go through the rest of it. And then the second phase is the second 5 minutes, and that's really an active appreciation process of really thinking through the people and the things in your life that you're appreciative for, that you're grateful for, and it really opens up your mind. And then things that you want to have in your life, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? And then the last 5 minutes is kind of bringing that together through a process that he calls pre-paving and really setting your intention for the future. So it's a different kind of a process. For me, it really resonated. I did it for quite some time, and it's not uncommon for me if I'm going through a difficult time to say, you know what, I'm going to go dust off my meditation practice and do that. Now, best practice might be to do that every day. That's not going to work for everybody. It didn't work for me. But when I could find time for it, it was a very helpful exercise. And look, if you're going through difficulty right now, you may hear this list of things I'm going through, and you're like, dude, that's not for me. Well, I would ask you to open up your mind to try something different, because if you're in a negative mindset and you're not willing to try something new or different or a little uncomfortable, you're probably going to stay in that mindset, just a thought. So meditation, there's lots of different ways of doing it. I really like that one that Jesse did, but look, there's apps on our iPhones. There's lots of different meditation apps. You can even just go to YouTube and download a guided meditation app and listen to that. Look, sleep is super important. Now, a few years ago, I got myself this Aura ring. You can see it right here. I wear it every day. And look, I actually remember I was talking to Dave Savage, who is a friend of the show. You've heard me talk about him. And he was telling me that he tracks his sleep every single night. And I was like, that's like a silly, that's a crazy thing to do. Why would you, what's the point? Why are you doing that? I mean, you're sleeping. What's the value in doing that? And he swore by it. And so, my wife and I both got these Aura rings, and I got to tell you, it's something that I look at every morning. I think about it when, I'm up in the evening and I'm watching TV or I'm doing something. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to get a very good sleep score if I don't go to sleep sooner. I also know that my sleep score is going to be impacted if I eat snacks in the evening, right? If I have food too late at night, your body doesn't react well to that. You're trying to digest your food while you're trying to get good rest. It doesn't work. And so you'd be surprised at the changes that you might make in your life as a result of tracking your sleep performance, and how that might, carry over into your mindset and how you feel about your day. And here's what I do know is that when we're down about things, we don't make good choices, right? We don't eat right. We stay up too late. We probably consume too much alcohol. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But we just make bad choices because we feel down, and then it exacerbates the problem. So what I'm suggesting is maybe taking on some new ideas. get a sleep tracker. You can do it on your watch. I didn't like sleeping with my smartwatch, and so the Ring was a good option for me. There's some loops that you can put on your wrist at night and use that. But you'd be surprised. I mean, we're all competitive people here in the sales business, and I like to get, like if you do really well, you get a crown. I love getting a crown on my sleep score, right? It means that I've done some things right, and you know what? I feel a lot better on those days. I can tell. Like if I don't look at my app first thing in the morning and it's like 9:30 and I'm kind of feeling sluggish, I'm like, what was my sleep score? And I'll go back and look at it and I can see right away it definitely impacts your mindset and how you feel about your day. So consider tracking your sleep and then trying to improve the habits around giving yourself a good night's sleep. Exercise regularly. Look, especially when you're not feeling great, when you don't have good mindset, you got to work out. And for me, I hate working out. I'm just going to be honest with you. I do not like going to the gym. For me, I hired a trainer. I actually called my wife one day and I'm like, I know I need to get the habit of exercising. She's very disciplined about it. I said, sign me up with your trainer, schedule the appointment, and just make me, put it on my calendar and I will show up. And so that's what works for me. I have it on my calendar. It's an appointment with my trainer, and that's how I get it in. It's expensive to do it that way, so I don't recommend that for everybody. But what I do recommend is scheduling an appointment with yourself and keeping it. The other thing that I did is I started doing my workout earlier and earlier. Now, some of you who might watch this are, fanatics about this. You're Miracle Morning folks that get up at, 4:45 in the morning. And so, my routine is probably not impressive to some of you, but to others, maybe it is. And here's what I found is when I started getting up a little bit earlier to go work out, it also made me want to go to bed a little bit earlier. It wanted me to make sure I got a good night's sleep. It wanted, those other things. It all kind of works together and it all plays into, your mindset and how you can give yourself a better advantage at controlling your mindset. So exercise, make it a discipline, schedule it in your calendar, and show up like you would anything else. The other thing I wrote down is diet. This is an obvious one, guys. We snack, we eat candy, we eat garbage, we feel like crap. That's not going to help your mindset. So doing these things alone won't fix your mindset. It's just going to put you in the right place to be able to have the influence over how you feel. Okay, alcohol consumption. So this one is interesting. So I'll be very transparent with you about this particular topic. For me, in 2019, this was October of 2019. I like to watch Joe Rogan's podcast. And if you watch Joe Rogan, you know that every October he does Sober October. So I did Sober October in 2019. And while I was watching one of his podcasts, he did an interview with a gal named Nikki Glazer. She's a comedian. She's hilarious. But he was talking to her about how she quit drinking. And she mentioned that the way that she quit drinking was she read a book. And the book was called The Easy Way to Control Alcohol. And she said she knew about the book because years before that, she had quit smoking cigarettes. And the way that she quit smoking cigarettes was a book by the same author called The Easy Way to Quit Smoking. And it resonated with me because in 2009, I quit smoking cigarettes, and I did it by listening to that book called The Easy Way to Quit Smoking. It was recommended by a friend. I actually watched the webinar, and I literally quit smoking that day. It's unbelievable, this book. So I quit smoking. So I'm listening to Nikki. And, I listen to books all the time on audiobooks. So when I heard that interview, I went to my Audible, and I'd never heard of this book, the alcohol book, and I just downloaded it into Audible as like my next up, the next book that I was going to read or listen to, as it would be in Audible. And so sure enough, it's still Sober October, probably the middle of the month or so, 2019. I listened to the book. And I'll tell you guys, I had no intention on changing my drinking habits. I was going to do Sober October. I had done it the 3 years before that. It's kind of something I got in the routine of doing. And I listened to that book, and the end of October came, and I didn't feel like having a drink. Matter of fact, I didn't drink for 15 months. I didn't drink all of 2020. And it was actually quite easy. That's why they call it the easy way. I made the conscious decision that I was not going to do that forever. And literally at midnight on January 1st of 2021, I poured myself a drink and I said, that was a good experiment. And I went on about my way. And, like anybody, you get into the normal habits that you have. And in May of this year, so just a few months ago, I was challenged to do the Hard 75 challenge. And if you don't know what this is, it's a fitness challenge and it's very difficult to do. I was not successful. I'm just going to put that out there. I did not finish the Hard 75. But one of the things that you have to do is you can't drink any alcohol for 75 days. You have to work out twice a day. That was the most difficult thing for me to do, fitting in 2 workouts a day. You have to drink a gallon of water a day. You have to read 10 pages of a book. You have to take a photo every day. There's a lot of things. So look it up. If you really want a hard challenge, look up the Hard 75. But nonetheless, I did agree to try it. And I started the Hard 75 and I knew that I couldn't drink being on it. And so I went back to my Audible and I re-listened to that book again. Even though I'd listened to it once, I'm like, I'm going to listen to this again. It's going to help me get through this 75 days. And so I listened to the book. Obviously didn't drink for the 75 days. I did a really good job of drinking a gallon of water every day, but I did not do so well at all the other stuff. But nonetheless, it's the end of September and I still haven't had a drink of alcohol. And I'll tell you, I feel fantastic. So think about that. I know that in the mortgage and real estate industry, this is an industry that a lot of people overconsume alcohol. And it's like built into, people joke about it. It's like, I'm in the mortgage business, of course. But this is something that I think can have a huge impact on your mindset, even if you're not like a problem drinker. And look, I never felt like I was a problem drinker, but I can tell you that I felt a lot better having 0 alcohol consumption in my life. And that book, per the name of it, made it pretty easy for me to implement that. And it might be something for you to consider. Because one thing I do know is that when we're down, when we're feeling beat up about the market, we do tend, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people tend to increase their consumption of alcohol during times like that. And I can tell you, it's the last thing that you need in order to have the right motivation, inspiration to get up and do what's necessary to succeed in the market that we're in right now. So, and then the last thing that I would mention, you guys, is just doing some fun things in your off time. Now, notice I said in your off time, because I don't care how many transactions you have going right now. The mortgage and real estate industry, if this is your career, you should be working full time. 40 hours a week minimum you should be putting in, because getting transactions is your full-time job if you don't have any transactions to work on. I think there's a time where we're happy with the amount of business that we have. And so when we have some idle time in our calendar, we go do whatever we want. We have flexibility. But right now, if you're not hitting the amount of transactions that you want to hit, you need to be spending all that extra time in your calendar prospecting, working on your business, right? Doing things that are going to help propel your business forward. But I know when you're down and out, when you don't have that positivity, you tend to kind of recluse in a little bit, right? You kind of be a homebody. You don't really go do things that bring joy in your life. And you need to do those things in order to boost your mindset and your positivity. So schedule those things, find opportunities when you're not working to go out and do some fun things for yourself, with your family. And trust me, you'll feel better as a result of it. So you guys, that's kind of my list. Those are just things that have worked for me. Some of these things I do regularly, as I mentioned. Other things I've used at certain times in my life where I needed to refocus. I needed to shake things up. I needed to get my mindset right. And so hopefully that list is helpful to you. And I hope, if nothing else, that you can be open to the idea that if you find yourself with the stinking thinking that there are things that you can control that will turn that around for you and put you in the right mindset. Because I promise you, there are challenges in this market. There's silver linings too, but you're never going to find them if you go out and approach your day with a bad attitude, feeling negative, feeling down about your performance, down on yourself, etc. So hopefully this helps. And if you have any comments about this stuff, questions, feel free to leave a message down below or reach out to me directly. I'm pretty easy to find, it turns out, if you wanted to chat with me more about any of these things. And until the next episode, guys, tell someone about market shares. That's what I'm asking you to do. Just if you know someone that you think would benefit from watching or listening to this podcast, let them know about it. We're on every podcast platform and gaining traction on those. We're also put this up on YouTube so you can watch the video if that's something you like to do. And of course, like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time on Market Shares. Take care.